Ever found yourself constantly battling, an oily scalp, that persistent flaking and just that disheartening feeling of your hair thinning? You're definitely not alone if you have. This isn't just about bad hair days. It's often a sign of something deeper going on with your scalp balance. Today, we're doing a deep dive into your sources to unpack a really clinical grade strategy for promoting hair growth, even when you're dealing with things like seborrheic dermatitis and just excessive oiliness, particularly in adult males.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, something that often surprises people, is that the hair loss isn't really an isolated problem. It's like a direct consequence of this, well, hostile environment that gets set up on the scalp. Our mission today is basically to show you a robust, multi-tiered pathway, a way to restore scalp health and, get your hair thriving again.
Okay, let's really dig into what's happening here then. Our deep dive into the sources suggests this common combo: oily scalp, flakes, hair loss. It often points directly to seborrheic dermatitis, or SD. So could you maybe walk us through what exactly SD is and why it causes such persistent problems on the scalp?
Sure. So SD is a chronic relapsing inflammatory skin condition. It's typically characterized by, well, greasy, sometimes yellowish scales, redness, and often really intense itchiness. It particularly loves areas rich in oil glands and the scalp. That's prime real estate for it. But here's the part that's really a game changer to understand about SD, despite it being chronic. The hair loss it causes, it's often temporary and crucially fully reversible once you get that inflammation under control. That's a huge piece of hope for a lot of people, I think.
Right, that is hopeful. So if it's not just going away on its own, what exactly is driving this relentless cycle, this, oil and flakes situation on the scalp?
Okay, the engine behind it is really a vicious cycle. First, you've got hyperseborrhea. That's just a fancy term for excessive oil production. This creates a greasy scalp environment. It can clog hair follicles, hinder nutrient delivery, trap dirt. You get the picture. Then you have the naturally occurring Malassezia yeast living on your scalp. Normally, it's harmless. But with all that extra sebum from the hyperseborrhea, it's basically like an all-you-can-eat buffet for the yeast. So the Malassezia proliferates, it grows out of control, and as it metabolizes all that oil, it releases irritating byproducts like oleic acid.
Ah, okay. And once that Malassezia yeast gets going, what's the direct impact we actually see on the scalp? And maybe more critically for many, on the hair itself?
That's exactly where the trouble really starts. That oleic acid and other byproducts, they set off an inflammatory response. That leads directly to the redness, the swelling, like really intense itching you might feel. It also disrupts the normal skin cell turnover process, causing those characteristic flakes. But there's a sort of hidden culprit too: oxidative stress. Malassezia is a significant source of this kind of damage, where free radicals basically overwhelm your body's natural defenses. Our sources show it seems to impact the hair fiber even before it emerges from the scalp. And it can even lead to programmed cell death in the follicle cells. Essentially, the follicles get a signal to prematurely shut down and stop producing healthy hair.
Wow.
Yeah. And then finally, there's the sheer physical trauma from scratching. Just scratching that itch can simply pull out or break hair that's already weakened by everything else. It's almost a cruel irony, isn't it?
It really is.
That the very act of trying to relieve the itch can actually make the hair loss worse.
I bet many listening have been caught in that really frustrating cycle.
So the cumulative effect of this whole hostile environment, the inflammation, the oxidative stress, the clogged follicles, the physical trauma, it has profound consequences for your hair. We're talking about follicular impairment, right? Where the follicles just can't produce healthy hair anymore. This chronic inflammatory state can prematurely shorten the anagen phase, that's the active growth phase of your hair cycle. This leads to increased shedding, a condition called telogen effluvium, where hairs just enter their resting and shedding phases too early. And with each cycle, the hair can become progressively thinner, shorter, and weaker. That's a process known as miniaturization. Plus, the hair that does manage to grow often has a damaged cuticle, so it looks duller and it's much more prone to breakage.
Okay, so given this whole interconnected, kind of messy cycle you've described, what's the fundamental principle for anyone listening who's trying to regrow their hair? It really sounds like just, reaching for a standard growth stimulant might be missing the core issue entirely.
You've absolutely hit on the critical foundational principle there. You simply cannot effectively apply a growth stimulant to a diseased, inflamed scalp. It doesn't work well. The path to promoting hair growth must prioritize breaking this pathophysiological cycle first. We need a robust, multi-pronged approach, something that controls the sebum, reduces the Malassezia yeast, and most critically, resolves that underlying inflammation and oxidative stress.
Right, and our sources detail a truly comprehensive five-tiered approach to tackling this whole thing.
Mhm.
Let's dive into these layers, starting with what sounds like the absolute non-negotiable foundation, just everyday scalp management.
Exactly. And this isn't just about hygiene, like washing your hair. It's genuinely therapeutic. The goal is to remove that excess sebum, the dead skin cells, and the microbes without completely stripping your scalp bare. Cleansing frequency is key here. Maybe 2-3 times a week is often a good balance for maintenance. But if you're having an active flare, daily might be necessary for a bit. Thing is, too much washing, especially with harsh cleansers, can actually trigger more oil production. So it's about finding that sweet spot for you. The double shampoo technique is highly recommended by our sources. First wash lifts the surface residue, gets rid of the gunk. Second wash lets those active ingredients really sit on the scalp like 3 to 5 minutes to do their work. And also strategic rotation. Switching between different types of medicated shampoos can really maximize efficacy, stops your scalp getting too used to one thing.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about conditioning? I know many people with oily scalps tend to skip it entirely, thinking it'll just add to the greasiness.
Yeah, that's a really common misconception, and actually it's often a mistake. Medicated shampoos, while they're great for the scalp, can sometimes dry out the hair shaft itself, making it feel brittle or straw-like. The solution is using a lightweight, non-comedogenic, silicone-free conditioner. And here's the key. Apply it only to the mid-lengths and ends of your hair, carefully avoiding the scalp and the roots. This gives you that essential moisture for the hair itself without adding to the greasiness on the scalp.
That's excellent advice for conditioning.
Yeah.
So building on that, how do we, decode those tricky product labels to choose what's truly beneficial for the scalp? And maybe more importantly, what ingredients should listeners be actively looking to avoid?
Right, this is a crucial skill for really empowering yourself in managing this. You want to actively avoid harsh sulfates, things like sodium lauryl sulfate or SLS, also drying alcohols like isopropyl alcohol. Heavy silicones, dimethicone is a common one, mineral oil, petrolatum, and often synthetic fragrances or dyes as they can be irritating. Think of it this way. Your scalp is this delicate ecosystem, right? It's not a kitchen sink. You wouldn't use harsh degreasers on something so sensitive.
Good analogy.
Yeah, so look for gentler alternatives. And for adjunctive care, like extra help, leave-in scalp serums can be great. Look for ingredients like salicylic acid, niacinamide, caffeine, maybe tea tree oil. They provide continuous targeted action right on the scalp. And for really stubborn scaling, sometimes pre-wash treatments with keratolytics, like salicylic acid again, can help soften those scales before you shampoo, making them easier to wash away.
Okay, so once that foundational care is solid, we move to tier 2.
Mm-hmm.
The targeted over-the-counter or OTC active ingredients. What are the sort of heavy hitters we should know about here? And maybe how do they work together to break that cycle we talked about?
Right, this is where you bring in the specific tools for the job. First up, ketoconazole 1%. This is a broad-spectrum antifungal. It actively targets and kills that Malassezia yeast. And it even has some anti-inflammatory properties too, which is a huge bonus. Studies suggest it might even help reduce the associated hair loss. Think of it as your primary weapon against the yeast.
Okay, ketoconazole. Got it.
Then there's zinc pyrithione, or ZPT, usually 1-2%. Very widely used. You see it everywhere. It's antifungal and also antibacterial. It disrupts fungal growth. And it can also help regulate sebum production a bit, often found in, common dandruff shampoos.
When Head and Shoulders, right.
Exactly. Then you have selenium sulfide, 1%, another effective antifungal. But its special trick is that it also helps slow down skin cell turnover, which is key to reducing that excessive flaking and scaling. Like Selsun Blue uses this. And then salicylic acid, 2-3%. This is your go-to if you have really thick, greasy scales. It's a keratolytic. That means it acts like a gentle exfoliant, softening and dissolving the glue holding those dead skin cells together, allowing them to be washed away easily. And because it's oil soluble, it can actually penetrate into those clogged follicles. It's fantastic when used in rotation with an antifungal because it basically clears the path, lets the antifungal get in there and work better.
That makes sense, using them together or rotating.
Yeah. And finally, there's coal tar. It works by slowing skin cell growth and reducing inflammation. But just a heads up, it has a pretty strong distinctive odor, and it can potentially stain lighter hair or fabrics, so something to be aware of.
Good to know. Now, for many listening, I suspect this next section, Tier 3, is what they've really been waiting for, how to actively stimulate hair regrowth. But our sources really emphasize a critical point here, one that needs to be understood first. Wait until the scalp is calm.
Absolutely, that is paramount. Applying powerful stimulants to an already inflamed, irritated scalp is just counterproductive. It can even make things worse, more irritated. You really need to build on a stable, healthy foundation first. So, number 1, minoxidil. This is really the gold standard for hair regrowth, widely studied. It works by increasing blood flow to the follicles and helps prolong that anagen growth phase. But, and this is the crucial detail for you if you have SD, choose the foam formulation.
The foam. Okay. Why specifically the foam?
Because the liquid version often contains propylene glycol, and propylene glycol is a really common irritant that can easily trigger or worsen an SD flare-up for sensitive individuals. The foam formulation is typically propylene glycol-free, making it far, far better tolerated on sensitive or SD-prone scalps.
That's a really important distinction.
Yeah, it really is. Then there's rosemary oil. This natural alternative is a true standout based on the research. A key 2015 study found it produced a similar increase in hair count to 2% minoxidil after 6 months. But, importantly, it caused significantly less scalp itching than the minoxidil group reported. Plus, rosemary oil itself has some anti-inflammatory and antifungal properties. Just remember, you must dilute it properly in a carrier oil first, like jojoba or argan oil. Don't apply it neat.
Interesting. Rosemary oil. And what about saw palmetto?
Saw palmetto is another good one, especially relevant here. Beyond its well-known role in potentially blocking DHT, that's the hormone linked to male pattern, baldness studies show saw palmetto can also help regulate sebum production. So that dual-action DHT blocking and sebum control is excellent for someone dealing with SD-prone scalp and hair thinning.
Dual action, nice.
Yeah. And also keep an eye out for other supportive ingredients in lightweight serums, things like caffeine, peptides, and niacinamide. They can offer synergistic support for hair growth without being too heavy.
Okay, that covers OTC and natural stimulants. But what about those really persistent or severe cases? It sounds like Tier 4 is where you call in the experts. When should someone truly consider making that appointment to see a dermatologist?
Yeah, absolutely. If those OTC therapies haven't shown significant improvement after, say, 4 to 6 weeks of consistent use, or if your symptoms are severe, we're talking significant pain, crusting, widespread redness, or if the hair loss is happening really rapidly or seems very extensive, or even if you just have diagnostic uncertainty, you're not sure if it is SD, then definitely it's time to see a board-certified dermatologist. They can offer stronger solutions.
And what kind of stronger solutions might they offer?
Well, they might prescribe topical corticosteroids. These are very effective for getting rapid, short-term control of severe inflammation during flares. But these are generally not for long-term continuous use due to potential side effects like skin thinning. There are also topical calcineurin inhibitors, which are non-steroidal alternatives that can help reduce inflammation without those steroid side effects. For very severe, widespread, or resistant cases, sometimes oral antifungals are used for a period to really reset the fungal load from the inside out. But perhaps the most fascinating options, especially because they offer dual benefits, are the device-based modalities.
Device-based? Like what?
2 main ones stand out. First, low-level laser therapy, or LLLT. This uses specific wavelengths of red light to stimulate activity within the hair follicles. But critically for this context, LLLT also have a well-documented anti-inflammatory effect on the skin, so it's calming the scalp environment while also actively promoting growth. You can even find FDA-cleared LLLT devices like caps or bands for home use now.
Wow, anti-inflammatory too. That's key.
It really is. And the second one is platelet-rich plasma therapy, or PRP. This involves drawing a small amount of your own blood, spinning it down to concentrate the platelets and growth factors, and then injecting this POP directly into your scalp. It's known as a powerful hair growth stimulant. But remarkably, studies have also shown PRP can help alleviate chronic inflammation in the treated area. It's like you're literally delivering your body's own concentrated healing factors right to the site of inflammation and hair loss.
So just to be clear then, these advanced therapies, LLT and PRP, they aren't just about encouraging new hair growth. They're actively working to heal the scalp environment at the same time.
That's precisely it. You nailed it. They're effectively scalp normalizing and growth stimulating therapies. They tackle both the root cause, the problematic scalp environment, and the symptom, the hair loss. It's a really powerful combination for the right person.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, moving to the final tier, Tier 5. We often forget, I think, that our scalp is very much connected to our overall health. What role do things like diet and stress play in this whole picture of oily scalp, dandruff, and hair loss?
Oh, a huge one, a really significant one. Chronic stress, primarily through its impact on the hormone cortisol, can definitely trigger or significantly worsen SD flare-ups by promoting inflammation throughout the body, including the scalp. So stress management, whether it's through regular physical activity, mindfulness practices, meditation, even just spending more time in nature, it's actually a legitimate therapeutic intervention for SD.
So managing stress isn't just good for your mind, it's good for your scalp too.
Absolutely. And nutrition is equally vital. Our sources highlight several key nutrients. Zinc. It's essential for hair growth itself, it helps regulate sebum production, and it has anti-inflammatory properties. Zinc deficiency is closely linked to various types of hair loss, B vitamins, especially biotin B7, which supports the skin barrier. Deficiencies in riboflavin B2 and pyridoxine B6 can sometimes lead to conditions that mimic SD. Vitamin D, really important. Low levels of vitamin D are pretty consistently associated with higher severity of seborrheic dermatitis in studies. It's definitely worth getting your levels checked by your doctor. Iron, absolutely crucial for delivering oxygen to the hair follicles. Iron deficiency with or without anemia is a very, very common cause of hair shedding or telogen effluvium. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in fish oil, flax seeds, walnuts. These are potent anti-inflammatory agents, vital for overall skin health and potentially calming scalp inflammation. Vitamin A, important for skin cell turnover and health, but you need to be cautious with high-dose supplements due to potential toxicity. Best to get it from food sources like carrots and sweet potatoes.
That's a lot of important nutrients. What about simple home remedies? Things like tea tree oil or apple cider vinegar, do they have a place?
They can be supportive, yes, as adjuncts. For example, diluted tea tree oil is known for its antifungal properties. Diluted apple cider vinegar rinses are sometimes used to help restore the scalp's natural pH balance, which can be disrupted in SD. And aloe vera gel can be very soothing for itchiness and inflammation. The key things here are always dilute potent ingredients like tea tree oil and ACV properly, do a patch test first, and view them as helpful additions, not replacements for the core. Evidence-based treatments like medicated shampoos or minoxidil if needed.
Right. Use them carefully and as support. Okay, this has been an incredible amount of really valuable information covering everything from basic washing to advanced therapies and diet. Our sources managed to pull this all together into a practical, kind of phased action plan. Can you give us the overview of how someone should actually approach implementing all this?
Yeah, definitely. It's helpful to think of it in three distinct yet interconnected phases. It's a journey, not an overnight fix. Phase 1, gaining control. This is typically the first, say, 1 to 8 weeks. The main goal here is aggressively reducing that inflammation, the scaling, and the excess oiliness. Get things calmed down. This means implementing that foundational care immediately, the right washing frequency, the double shampoo, avoiding irritants, and consistently rotating your powerful OTC medicated shampoos, like using ketoconazole one wash, maybe salicylic acid the next. If symptoms are really severe at the start, this is when a doctor might prescribe a short course of a topical steroid just to get things under control quickly. And crucially, immediately start integrating those dietary improvements and stress management techniques. This phase is all about putting out the fire.
Okay, phase 1, calm the storm. What's phase 2?
Phase 2, stabilization and hair growth focus. This phase might be roughly months 3 through 6, maybe longer. Once the scalp is significantly calmer and more stable, the focus shifts. You want to maintain that healthier scalp environment, but now you can start introducing targeted hair growth treatments. So you'll likely reduce the frequency of your strong medicated shampoos, maybe just once or twice a week for maintenance. And now is the time to start with your chosen growth stimulant, whether that's the propylene glycol-free minoxidil foam or the diluted rosemary oil or perhaps saw palmetto supplements. This is also the ideal time to consider adding something like low-level laser therapy, LLT, as the scalp is now more receptive and less inflamed.
Right, introduce growth treatments only after the scalp is stable.
Exactly.
At phase 3.
Phase 3. Long-term maintenance and flare-up prevention. This is basically from month 6 onwards, and it's for the long haul, potentially for life, since SD is chronic. The goal here is maintaining the results and preventing major flare-ups. So you'll likely continue your chosen growth stimulant consistently. You'll continue using your maintenance medicated shampoo, perhaps weekly or bi-weekly, just to keep the yeast and scaling in check. And a big part of this phase is learning to identify your personal triggers. Is it stress, certain foods, changes in weather, lack of sleep? Once you know your triggers, you can be proactive. Maybe have a flare-up kit ready, like your stronger medicated shampoo or a calming serum to use at the very first sign of trouble, managing recurrences before they get out of hand.
It really sounds like consistency, patience, and almost becoming a detective for your own scalp triggers are absolutely key to long-term success with this.
That's exactly right. You've summed it up perfectly. While this condition, seborrheic dermatitis, is chronic, its symptoms, the oil, the flakes, the itch, even the hair loss, are highly manageable. And your hair can regrow once you address those underlying issues effectively and consistently. And if we just, connect this back to the bigger picture for a moment, remember, seborrheic dermatitis is indeed a chronic condition. There isn't a cure in the traditional sense. But the goal is effective, long-term management, and being able to swiftly control any flare-ups that do occur. And the most encouraging aspect, truly, and a fact that's worth repeating, is that the hair loss specifically associated with SD is, in the vast majority of cases, temporary. It is reversible once those underlying drivers, especially the inflammation and the oxidative stress, are brought under control. However, and this is important for managing expectations, hair growth is inherently a slow process. It can easily take 6 to 12 months, sometimes even longer, of consistent adherence to your plan to see significant visible regrowth. Patience is vital.
That's a great point about patience. And it raises, I think, an important final question for you, our listener, to reflect on. Given everything we've unpacked today, this deep connection between scalp health, inflammation, yeast, oil, and ultimately hair growth, what's maybe one immediate small change you can realistically make to your daily routine starting tomorrow? Perhaps it's just tweaking your shampoo technique like we discussed, leaving it on longer. Or maybe focusing on adding one key nutrient, like ensuring you get enough zinc or omega-3s. Or even just committing to 5 minutes of mindfulness to manage stress. What's that first small step you can take using this knowledge to start restoring your scalp's health and encouraging that robust hair growth you're looking for? It really is about empowering yourself with this information.
Absolutely. And just a final reminder, for truly personalized diagnosis and guidance, especially if things aren't improving or seem severe, remember that a board-certified dermatologist really remains the gold standard of care. Don't hesitate to seek their expertise.